Hola clase, ¿cómo están? So here we are today to go over, or here's today's video lesson for Grammar 6.1. But before we get into that, I wanted to remind you that for this class, the vocabulary lessons you do on your own. And the reason for that is because on the super site you have a lot of presentation with it. So I'm logged in as a student right now, and you can see here that today is Monday, September 21st, 2020. You have 6 activities for the contextos. Contextos is the vocabulary. And these are just presentation activities, so you're not actually doing any work, okay? And then you also have some pronunciation stuff that you'll be practicing today, and then just a presentation of 6.1, which is what we're going to do today. So another way to look at this content is if you go up to content and you click on activities, and then you go over here and click on this, and you can pick any of the chapters that we're working on. So today we're starting Lección 6, so you click on that, and here you can see all of the things that are due. So these are all of the things that are due today, and this will tell you what's due next or on Wednesday, etc. Okay, so that's another way to look at the content. So let's begin. So we'll be starting with 6.1. And today we're looking at 2 verbs, saber and conocer, and they both mean to know, but you cannot use them interchangeably. So we're going to see when we use one or the other. But also, before we do that, we're going to look at how you conjugate these 2 verbs, because the yo form for both is irregular. Okay, so we'll start with saber. So please repeat. Saber. Yo sé. And notice the accent over the E. Repita. Tú sabes. Usted, él, ella sabe. Nosotros, nosotras sabemos. Ustedes, ellos, ellas saben. Good. Let's do that again with just the forms. Repite, clase. Sé. Sabes, sabe, sabemos, saben. And remember, we skip over the vosotros because that's only used in Spain. Alright, so now to the verb conocer, which also means to know, but again, a different type of to know. Conocer. Here we go. Yo conozco. So notice the irregularity there, and that's why it's highlighted in red. Tú conoces. Usted, él, ella conoce. Nosotros, nosotras conocemos. Ustedes, ellos, ellas conocen. Muy bien. So, what do these mean? Saber means to know a fact or a piece of information, or to know how to do something. So, a few examples here. No sé tu número de teléfono. Right, so here is a piece of information that you don't know, so that's why you're using saber. Mi hermana sabe hablar francés. Here we're saying this is something that my sister knows how to do. Notice that the how is included. So often how in Spanish you say como, but here you don't have to say mi hermana sabe cómo hablar francés. You don't say the como, okay? Conocer, on the other hand, means to know or to be familiar or acquainted with a person, place, or thing. So let's look at the examples. ¿Conoces la ciudad de Nueva York? So do you know New York City? Are you familiar with New York City? No conozco a tu amigo Esteban. Right, so here's an example with a person. I don't know, I'm not acquainted with your friend Esteban. All right? So we use conocer to be familiar with or to know a person. When the direct object of conocer is a person or a pet, so if it's a living thing, we use the personal a, which we saw last week with the use of direct object pronouns, right? So compare these two. Conoces La Habana. So La Habana is a city, not a live thing, so you don't use that a, right? That would translate to, do you know Havana? Are you familiar with Havana? But conoces a Cecilia Cruz. Here we're talking about a person, so do you know Cecilia Cruz? So it's worth mentioning again, like I mentioned in the video last week, that this ah here, it doesn't actually have any meaning in English, right? It's just one of these sort of abstract rules that exists in Spanish. But it's across the board, and it's used with people or living beings, okay? So atención, parecer and ofrecer are conjugated like conocer, meaning that they have the irregular yo form. So just like for conocer you say conozco, for parecer you say parezco, and ofrecer, ofrezco. But then the rest of the forms are normal, okay? Further, conducir y traducir also have an irregular yo form, but since they are IR verbs, they are conjugated differently from conocer. I mean, there is some similarities, but the difference isn't really, it's just in the nosotros form, because we don't need to worry about the vosotros form, right? So you say, to drive, conduzco, yo, and I translate, traduzco. But then the rest of the forms are normal until you get to nosotros, and instead of an ER, right, it's an I, so we say conducimos, traducimos. So keep that in mind. And that's it for the slides. So again, just to recap, remember, saber we use for facts or pieces of information or know how to do something, whereas conocer we use with to know or be familiar with or be acquainted with a person, place, or a thing. All right, so we're going to do 3 activities, so you have lots of practice, and these are activities that are not assigned to you, so they're new ones. And we'll start with this one, and then you have activities that you practice on your own as well. Okay. So here it says, choose the appropriate form of conocer or saber to complete the following sentences. All right, so we have to do 2 things. Pick the right verb, so is it saber or conocer, and then also the right conjugation. All right, so let's look at number 1. And like always, I'll say pause, and then you'll pause the video and come back once you think you have the answer. So número 1, mi hermano quiere ser pintor, pero no blank pintar. So the options are, pero no conozco pintar, pero no conoce pintar, pero no sé pintar, pero no sabe pintar. Okay, pause it. And we're back. Here would be sabe, right? Because we're talking about mi hermano, and he doesn't know how to paint. So this falls under the category of know how to do something. Okay, muy bien. Número 2. Nosotros no blank al nuevo dependiente. ¿Es amable? So dependiente here is like a clerk, right? So we would say, nosotros no conoce al nuevo dependiente, nosotros no conocemos, nosotros no sabe, nosotros no sabemos al nuevo dependiente. Pause. And we're back. Here we would be, conocemos. We don't know. We're not acquainted with, right? Is he nice? That's what that's asking. Okay, número 3. No recuerdo bien dónde está el centro comercial, pero blank que está cerca de aquí. Alright, so the 4 options are, pero conozco que está cerca de aquí, pero conoces que está cerca de aquí, pero sé que está cerca de aquí, o pero sabes que está cerca de aquí. Pause. And we're back. So here we would actually say, because this is a piece of information, right? And we know that it's yo because no recuerdo. So I am the one who's talking. No recuerdo bien dónde está el centro comercial, pero sé que está cerca de aquí. But I know that it's close to here. I know this information. Bien, 4. Pablo, blank al joven de camisa roja que habla con tu novia. 3 options. Pablo, ¿conoces al joven? ¿Conoce al joven? ¿Sabes al joven? ¿Sabe al joven? Pause. And we're back. It would be conoces, right? ¿Conoces al joven de camisa roja que habla con tu novia? I was asking if Pablo knows this, whoever this guy, this young man in the red shirt that's talking to his girlfriend is, right? So it's conoces because it's al joven, right? So are you acquainted with, do you know this person? Okay, 5. Mis tíos viven en el campo y no blank la ciudad. So here are the 4 options. No conocemos la ciudad, no conocen la ciudad, no sabemos la ciudad, no saben la ciudad. Pause. And we're back. Here would be conocen, right? Because we're talking about ellos, and they're not familiar with the city. They're not acquainted with it. They don't know it. Okay, last one for this activity. Número 6. Blank usted cuánto cuestan las sandalias anaranjadas? 4 options. ¿Conoces usted cuánto cuestan? ¿Conoce usted cuánto cuestan? ¿Sabes usted cuánto cuestan? ¿Sabe usted cuánto cuestan las sandalias anaranjadas? Pause. And we're back, and here would be sabe, because it's a piece of information. So sabe usted cuánto cuestan. So do you know how much these orange sandals cost? All right, muy bien. We're going to move right along. We have 2 more short activities that are very similar. So we'll start with this one. Okay. So here it tells us, the activity tells us, fill in the blanks with the correct form of saber and conocer. So here we actually have to do some typing. Okay. So it's a similar thing. We have to pick the right verb and pick the right conjugation. So here we have, yo no blank a los padres de Juan Carlos. Okay, so pause. And we're back. And here it would be conozco, right? A los padres. I do not know Juan Carlos's parents. Okay? Bien, número 2. Marisa blank las ciudades de Canadá. Pause. And we're back. Here would be Marisa conoce, right? She's familiar with Canadian cities. Marisa conoce las ciudades de Canadá. All right. 3. Maru, tú blank, ¿dónde estamos? Pause. And we're back. Tú sabes dónde estamos, because this is information. Do you have the information of where we are? Maru, ¿sabes dónde estamos? Bien. 4. Yo blank hablar italiano y francés. Pause. And we're back. Yo sé, I know how to. And some of you said you didn't know how to do the accent marks. Okay, so look here. You click on this, and it brings up the accents. And then you click on that, and it introduces it to you for there, and you can exit out. Okay, that's how you put in accent marks. So since the sé has an accent mark, you need to put that. Yo sé hablar italiano y francés, right? I know how to speak Italian and French. 5. La señora Díaz blank bien la capital de México. Pause. And we're back. La señora Díaz conoce bien la capital de México. Is familiar with, is quite familiar with the capital of Mexico. Okay, last one for this activity, número 6. Jimena y yo no blank a los otros turistas. Pause. And welcome back. Jimena y yo no conocemos. Conocemos, right? A los otros turistas. We are not acquainted with the other tourists. We are not familiar with, we do not know them. It's people. And that's why we have this here. And this is also, we know it's nosotros because it's Jimena y yo. We do not know them. All right, we're going to do one more activity that is very similar. So we'll close that one. And then we'll call it a day here. So remember, you can watch this video, go back, rewind, whatever. You can download it from Blackboard onto your computer, and watch it as many times as you need it, because all the information you need is here, right? All right, so again, we're doing the same thing here. We're picking the verb, and then we're conjugating it accordingly. Número 1. Tú blank hablar francés. Pause. And we're back. Tú sabes. Do you know how to? This is a question. Do you know how to speak French? Tú sabes hablar francés. Número 2. Yo blank cómo hacer la tarea. Pause. And we're back. This one's a little weird because it does use the como here, which I'm not going to really get into, but this is again is saying know how to, right? Yo sé cómo hacer la tarea. Yeah, so that one kind of deviates a little bit, but you basically only use that with the verb hacer when you know how to do something specifically. Anyways, but it would be yo sé, and notice the accent, and again, that's how I put in the accent mark. 3. Mis padres no blank el Parque Nacional Yosemite. Pause. Mis padres no conocen el Parque Nacional Yosemite. Right? Conocen, they're not familiar with the Yosemite National Park. Conocen, and it's conocen because ellos. Okay, 4. Anita y yo, so we know it's nosotros, blank, ¿dónde está el parque? Pause. And we're back. Sabemos. Anita y yo sabemos dónde está el parque. information. We know where it is located. All right, last one. ¿Quién blank dos lenguas vale por dos? Pause. And we're back. ¿Quién sabe dos lenguas vale por dos? Right? To know, well, actually that's a kind of a twister. It didn't tell us what happened. ¿Quién sabe dos lenguas vale por dos? That's a strange little, what do you call them, saying in Spanish. I'm going to go with sabe because you know you know the information, you know how to speak two languages. Yeah, so that would be sabe. And everything just went away here, so my apologies. But you can rewind it and look at them again. Okay, so that's it for today, clase. Gracias, and I'll see you soon. Adios.